Hi, I'm Irene with BrainStorm Acres, and welcome to my seed planting session today. We're having to buy everything online or make do with something like this. I don't like the make do thing, and I don't like the buy it online thing, so it makes it kind of hard. We haven't found any of the local greenhouses that carry good seed starting mix. To be honest, most people are going to the greenhouses to buy finished plants. They're not going to buy seeds, and because I like to grow less commonly available flowers, I mean, I went down to a couple of we went down to multiple locations this past week. We did the big box store thing, but we also went to a well-known local nursery and looked at their flowers, and they were healthy, they were well cared for, and I don't want to say they were boring, but they were pretty boring. In other words, I just couldn't get the cool versions of the plants that I could get by going with seeds. And you take what they've got, obviously, and I have to admit I'm spoiled. I don't like doing that. I prefer to really be able to choose exactly what colors I want and what kind of flower forms I want and everything else. Next year I have to buy new seeds again because I really love this particular form of the plant, and I'm just gonna have to buy new seeds, because they're a perennial and I want to have lots of them around the yard. The only way to do that is to grow them from seed yourself. And that's one of the big advantages to seeding yourself, is you can decide, you go to your catalog, you find the seeds you want, and I may have some stashed somewhere, but they'll be really old. I think I actually got rid of them because they were so old the last time I grew them, they didn't grow well. So yeah, there we go. That's all ready to go. I have my watering can. I have the rose, that's what they call these. It allows you to have a gentle rain of moisture rather than drowning your plants. And I'm just going to flood the top of every single one of these. And then later I'll come back and I'll look to make sure that none of the seeds accidentally floated out from underneath. But I don't see any, so that's a good sign. Sometimes they pop right up and you're like, get back under there. I'm gonna put the rest of my zinnias in here. As I recall, the zinnia sunbow mix that I'm growing is all different colors. Our wind is sort of blowing around crazy this afternoon, and Jack doesn't like the noise that the greenhouse makes, so he's pacing back and forth. He's like, Mom, it's too noisy. Okay, there's all the old seeds. Done. And if I put seeds in each corner, or at least a couple of the corners, and I have good sturdy seedlings, I'll just break them apart when I transplant. I'm thinking how many do I really want? Well, the answer is 1 million, but 1 million is a bad answer because I still have like 10 other kinds of plants to plant here. One of the problems that I see legitimately with seeds is a lot of companies sell you giant packages, and while that can be very cool if you want to plant a giant pile of them, you know, I don't need 45 of one type of tomato. I just don't. I don't have room for it. I'm not doing a market garden. I don't have room for a market garden. And even if I did have room for a market, I mean, I have 43 acres. However, I only have so much in the way of raised beds. And problem is, if I'm doing 45 of one type of tomato, then I have no room for left for anything else. Each seed looks so different. It's so funny. Let's see. Barely covering seeds. Okay, so this is one of the barely covering types. So let me get those smoothed out nicely. Because they mean it when they say barely covering. And if you cover too much, a lot of times they will not germinate. That means they probably actually need light to germinate. Because in the real world, they would have just like fallen off the plants and landed there on the ground and maybe had a little dirt wash over them. Straighten this out, make this a bit more tidy. I'm not usually too fussy about it, but if it's one of those barely covered things, I want to be careful. Because these are Cosmos and I really like them a lot. I grew them for the first time 2 years ago, I think. And I just loved them. It was just like, wow. And they're tall and gigantic and bloom all summer. And so they're great for the back of the flower beds, so that you have this big thing in the back of the flower bed. The first time I ever planted them, I wound up with like 2 plants, and one was white and one was pink. And they were both really lovely. It was like having a tall plant with daisies all over it. Does that make sense? And I was like, wow, those are cool. I had to do that again. I want to have planted, planned, and the one that was out in the grassy area was just white. And I was not going to complain. It was awesome. I loved it, but I like the pink too. So there we go. Okay, done. Now let's just cover those up. Now this will take care of the majority of my things that I need to plant. There are still a few things. I have columbine seeds in the refrigerator. And the reason they're in the refrigerator is that columbine seeds often germinate better if they're chilled. If you can imagine in the real world, where a plant just has seeds and drops them on the ground, they sit outside over the winter. Columbines, I think, traditionally came from a cooler climate. The traditional heritage versions require chilling. So I've got 2 packages of seeds in the cheese drawer in the fridge, because I want to see if that'll help them to germinate. Unfortunately, I should have put them in, a month ago. Forgot to throw them in the fridge. Ideally, I would have thrown them in the fridge as soon as I got them, but I didn't. So this may mean that they'll go in a little later. But they're perennials, so if I can get them going, I'll get to enjoy them year after year, which is the whole point. Our push this year is to get more perennials in place. And by the way, they call that, when you chill them, they call that stratification. There's other things that some seeds require. Some seeds need to be soaked in water ahead of time. Some do better if you nick them with a knife or something, because they have a real hard seed coating on the outside. These ones down at the end here, I'm trying to be really careful with, because they just want to be barely covered. So I don't want to put too much in them. I'm trying to make sure everything I put down there is really fine. These, however, can take a little bit more. Okay, there we go. All right, so these are done. I have columbines in the fridge, so they need to live in there for probably another 2 weeks. Bummer. I would rather plant them, but I can't. Still need to plant husk cherries, but I think this will take care of it for now. Let's get these watered in. Okay, So we are ready to go. And now we just have to be patient, which is so much easier to talk about than doing it. But I come out every morning. I make sure everybody's had a good drink of water. I cover them at night. They have plastic covers that go on at night, like this. The tall ones have tall plastic covers. The really tall ones, like these tomato sprouts over here that were kept in the kitchen, those are currently not being covered. If I need to, because we're going to have a frost, I can cover this entire thing with plastic. So that's what this frame up here is for. Okay, well, hopefully this inspires you to find some sort of a plant that you wanted to grow that you maybe can't quite get at your local big box store. As you can see, it's not hard. The back of every package will tell you how deep to plant them and all that sort of stuff. And you too can grow flowers or veggies. See you next time. Bye.